In today's brief video, I want to share with you guys 5 level 10 weed withdrawal symptoms that I personally experienced when I was quitting smoking weed, and that I also see a few of our coaching clients experience when they first begin to quit. Now, if you wind up enjoying the content in today's video, be sure to check out the video description or the pinned comment to learn more about our free and paid Addiction Mindset Recovery Coaching Program resources. A few disclaimers before I talk to you guys about these 5 common withdrawal symptoms, which include insomnia, psychosis and disassociation, stomach problems, body pain, and then depression and anxiety. Before we jump into the problems and why those things arise and the solutions to them, I want you to understand a lot of people who use cannabis might be self-medicating for another condition. So it is important to speak to your physician or someone who's qualified in addiction and medical practice if you are struggling with ongoing withdrawal symptoms. I also want to emphasize that not everyone is going to experience these problems. One of the ways addiction manipulates people into staying addicted is by making them watch videos like this. They then think, oh my God, I'm going to get psychosis or I'm going to get stomach problems. I might as well just keep smoking. Fear is often nothing more than false expectations appearing real. So remember, your experience in quitting is not necessarily going to be like mine. So please take all of this with a grain of salt. If you experience insomnia, disassociation, stomach issues, body pain, depression, or anxiety, of which I'm going to talk to you about solutions and ways to overcome it in one moment, I do want you to understand you have 3 options for managing these things. 3 options, that's it. Option number 1 is you say it's too hard, it's too much, I'm just going to keep smoking. If that's the case, I don't know what to tell you. Option number 2, you buckle up and you say, I am going to get through this. Come hell or high water, I am going to succeed. I am going to come out on the other side. You are going to recognize that withdrawal is nothing more than the death of addiction. Withdrawal is not you suffering, but rather it is addiction's way of letting you know that you're dying as it tries to suck you back in. Option number 3, which sometimes is absolutely necessary, is a medication-assisted detox and quitting process. But those are the 3 options. You do it on your own, you return to smoking, or if things are too out of control, you seek a medically supervised detox and quit. All right, now let's talk about these withdrawal symptoms. Number 1 is insomnia. This is probably one of the hallmark signs of withdrawal across the board for any drug, but especially when it comes to weed. When we smoke weed, it decreases the amount of time it takes us to fall asleep, but long-term use and chronic abuse of cannabis actually leads to decreased REM sleep. REM sleep is the point in time where your brain organizes all its day-to-day thoughts and actions. It's the processing period. It's the detox period for your brain. Weed with prolonged use robs you of that, very similar to alcohol. When we have decreased REM sleep for years or months on end, when you quit weed, you're going to get this rebound insomnia and rebound REM sleep effect. This is where people typically realize they're having crazy, wild, vivid dreams. That's a rebound in REM sleep. Now, we're going to talk about where this is a problem in a moment when it comes to people with PTSD. Now, when it comes to managing the insomnia, as I said, you realistically have 3 options. Either you say, I can't do this, and you go back to smoking weed. You get through it. You try and fatigue yourself with exercise. You try and fatigue yourself with learning new skills, learning new things. You try and stay busy all day long, best you can. You cut out alcohol. You cut out caffeine. You make all the appropriate lifestyle changes to help promote sleep. Or you look to do a medication-assisted quitting approach. When it comes to the insomnia, if you go the medication route, I want you guys to speak to your doctor or a psychiatrist about a drug spelled Prazosin. It's a blood pressure medication that's used off-label for the treatment of PTSD. Because the problem is, if you're having really bad insomnia, but you're having PTSD-related nightmares, or nightmares that are constantly waking you up because you're getting that norepinephrine release while you're sleeping, which isn't supposed to happen, but that's what happens with PTSD, you're not going to get a good quality sleep. And that lack of sleep is going to lead to a lack of willpower in the long run, which is something you'll need initially to quit a little bit. And it's actually going to put you at a greater risk of developing things like psychosis and disassociation, which I'm about to talk about next. But realize, if you're going days on end without sleeping and you feel like you're about to go psychotic, there is a possibility of that, and that needs to be addressed. Now, other common medications I will see prescribed by a licensed psychiatrist or addiction medical professional: Zoloft, Paxil. I'll see them prescribe things like Lunesta and Ambien, which honestly, I would recommend getting a second opinion if they're prescribing you that, especially long term. Short term, okay, but long term, the literature doesn't look good for that. That's a little bit about the insomnia. It's something you just have to get through, though. It's terrible. It was terrible. I was up for 3 days straight, completely manic, and then passed out by day 4 when I quit. That lack of sleep can result in psychosis or disassociation. Now, I want you to understand something. Just because you're quitting does not mean that you're going to develop psychosis or disassociation. A lot of people I work with are quitting cannabis because they're already in an acute state of psychosis or disassociation. Now, if it's a mild state, I can help. If it's severe and they don't know up from down, then they need to go to a treatment facility and get a medically supervised detox. But let's talk about this a little bit, why the psychosis happened. If you are smoking a lot over a prolonged period of time, okay, what happens is you starve your body of REM sleep. And then if you do that for long enough, same thing with alcohol, you will start to develop auditory, visual hallucinations throughout the day. And you can enter into an acute state of psychotic behavior. It's like your brain craves dream sleep so badly that you become disassociated and you wind up in a 24/7 dream state even though you're awake. So that's someone who develops it while they're addicted. Now you could have someone on the flip side who quits, gets rebound insomnia, doesn't sleep for a long time, and then develops acute symptoms of psychosis from lack of sleep or insomnia-related matters. In either event, if you're trending that way and it's severe, you probably need to go to a facility that can handle this, or you probably need a medication-assisted quit. Typically with psychosis, it's going to be antipsychotic meds, it's going to be sedatives, it's going to be sleeping meds. Now, if people are like, I don't want to do that, okay, then that goes back to my other two options. Then you either keep smoking, which probably isn't going to help, or you figure out how to quit on your own. And quitting on your own could include getting support and all that stuff. I want to emphasize that. For me, psychosis, the biggest thing was talk therapy, talking to people, talking about it, talking about what I was going through, helping people ground me and bring me back to reality was hands down the most beneficial thing I did. As a disclaimer, I did not do any medication-assisted quit when it came to these symptoms. I wasn't in a place where I had to. Stomach problems. This is very common. Typically what we'll see is nausea, an inability to eat food, diarrhea, or severe constipation. Now, this is usually pretty easily managed, except in the case of diarrhea. If you're having a lot of diarrhea, or if while you were smoking, not after you quit, while you were smoking, you developed Cannabinoid Hyperemesis Syndrome and you're throwing up all the time, you may need medical care in regard to electrolyte replenishment or electrolyte therapy, because the biggest risk with the stomach issues is usually dehydration. Now, in some cases, if you're unable to eat, we'll see extreme weight loss. In females, this often becomes misdiagnosed as anorexia or an eating disorder. And then, that winds up getting treated when in reality, the problem was never actually addressed. If it's diarrhea or constipation, look, if it's constipation, talk to your doctor, but you could presumably, if it's safe for you, try an over-the-counter laxative temporarily, or like Smooth Move tea. I'll link it in the video description. If it's diarrhea, chances are they're going to prescribe you something to help with that or recommend Imodium or something along those lines. With stomach issues, I also typically see reflux problems like burning, heartburn. I usually recommend, I'll link it in the video description, George's aloe vera juice. It's a clear aloe vera juice. It's tasteless. It's odorless. It works really well. Body pain, body aches and pain. Again, speak to your doctor, but a temporary bridge when you first quit could potentially be Advil, Aleve, or Tylenol. Understand, Tylenol is a pain blocker. Aleve, Advil, NSAIDs, COX-2 inhibitors, these are things that are blocking inflammation. Personally, I have better luck with Advil, Aleve, things like that. Very, very short term. I am not one for meds. I'm not one for over-the-counter meds. That's just not how I do it. But if you're having a lot of pain and you speak to your physician and you can safely take those, and that's going to bridge you for 2-3 days, that's an option. Another option, hot showers, heat, sauna, that really, really seems to help people out, along with gentle movement, walking, swimming, hot tub, things along those lines for the body pain. I also recommend in some cases something called white willow bark. It contains, I think it's, was it salicylic acid or salicylic? I can't pronounce it. It contains an anti-inflammatory that you would commonly find in like aspirin, okay? So white willow bark is kind of a supplement option when it comes to body pain, maybe without some of the side effects. Depression and anxiety are two very common withdrawal symptoms that people deal with. And I would say these combined with the insomnia, which they all feed into one another. If you're anxious, you won't sleep. But if you're not sleeping, you get anxious. If you're anxious and you're not sleeping, you're going to get depressed, right? So these all play hand in hand. These are probably some of the most common things. Again, you either figure out how to manage it naturally on your own, or you go see a doctor and they prescribe you drugs, or you just say, I can't do this, and you keep smoking weed. Those are the three outcomes. There's nothing more I can do for you with that. Those are your three options, period. Now, when it comes to the depression and anxiety, I will throw this out. Exercise, obviously. Eating healthy, obviously. Talk therapy, obviously. Finding community support, obviously. Working with a coach, if that's something you need to do, for sure. Any of those things are good. We know what's going to make us feel better in most cases. So one, are you doing those things to help with it? Now, another option with this, I went out, I made a chewing gum, Kick It Crave Less chewing gum. It contains N-acetylcysteine and KSM-66 ashwagandha. KSM-66 ashwagandha is clinically proven to reduce depression and anxiety symptoms, clinically studied. Okay, I will put a link to all the studies for KSM-66 in the video description, as well as a link where you can learn more about this gum. Our website targets cigarette smoking. I made this for cigarettes, cannabis, vapes, nicotine and THC products. We have a lot of people telling them it's helping them reduce alcohol cravings. It's an incredible product. Check that out. Those are the most common things that I see. This is a problem because it often leads to relapse, these symptoms. What a lot of people fail to realize is this is what makes quitting hard, the withdrawal symptoms. This is the challenge. And a lot of people simply throw up their hands and say, I can't do this. But when they throw up their hands and they say, I can't do this, or if that's something that you've been doing, can you do another week of addiction? Another year of addiction, another 10 years of addiction, because I'm confident that most people with the proper care or with the right mindset can do this. I'm not confident, though, that you can do another year of addiction, another 2 years, another 10 years, another 20 years. We forget about that when we're going through the acute stages of withdrawal because this becomes more important. It becomes more prioritized in our brain. We forget about the long term, right? Drugs train us to focus on short-term feelings and short-term outcomes. That's why so many people get tied up in the withdrawal symptoms. And I say that with a grain of salt. I said that fully acknowledging that you may need a medically supervised detox. I recently had a friend of mine who owns a sober living, and he said he's seen worse weed withdrawal symptoms than he is opioid withdrawal. Now, how could that possibly be? How could that be? He said acutely alcohol's worse, but of course, you can die from alcohol withdrawal, but long term, his cannabis patients or clients are struggling more. How could that be? Well, a lot of people that I've worked with, myself included to an extent, it will take them 90, 120 days just to detox weed from their body. So at that point, our endocannabinoid system is just getting started when it comes to the healing process. A lot of people dramatically underestimate the amount of time that it takes to feel better. When it came to the body pain that I was experiencing, it was over a year before I could physically lift weights again because my pain tolerance was so out of whack. Over a year. People dramatically underestimate how long the healing process from cannabis can take, and this often also results in relapse. It's been 30 days. Why aren't I better? Why aren't I through all the withdrawals? Why am I experiencing, I'll attach that video in this one, post-acute withdrawal symptoms? How long is this going to last? People don't expect this and it throws them off guard, but hopefully I provided you guys with some ideas and some solutions and a little bit of a heads up. And remember, as I said in the beginning of the video, just because this applies to me or someone else in the comments does not mean it's going to apply to you. So don't let the big bad withdrawals scare you from creating a better life for yourself. Okay, follow me into the next video. Check out the video description or the pinned comment. Or sincerely, if it's depression and anxiety symptoms, it's not a miracle supplement. It's not. But I bet it will help you out. It's a chewing gum for maximal absorption versus a pill or something. All right, see you guys soon.